What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Talking hoops, Mangone, DC, myself, breaking down this 4-game slate. Not too much injury news we're waiting on. Got some earlier. Desmond Bane out. Memphis looks to be a team a lot of people are going to. Luka's on the slate. Should be a fun one, though. Excited to talk about it. Before I go to either of these two guys, though, Richie Smalls, I see you in chat. Happy birthday, man. I was trying to wish you a happy birthday way earlier when I got up in Discord. Could not find your name in Discord, so I'll say it here. Happy birthday to you. Got to shout out a couple other people. Dr. Lucky in here, seeing Discord all the time. Cesar Martinez, Junior, Craig, Apone's in here. Parabai, Sala. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Apone, Mom's Basement. DC, you're not in Mom's Basement right now. What's going on, though?
Not too much. Having a little bit of a rough day over here. I'll be honest. Went on, I got the New Year's diet exercise thing going on. Went on a long run today. It's cold in Colorado today, like 20 degrees. So, you're all bundled up. You're out in the cold. I ran 8 miles, get home all sweaty. And the water is off in my building since 10 in the morning. It's like 5 hours later, still no water. So I get back. I can't shower. I've had to drink my girlfriend's carbonated water, which I don't like, to rehydrate. It's been a rough few hours. So hopefully turning around with this show and some NBA hoops tonight.
Did you go to your gym and at least shower there? You're sitting all stinky.
No, I
don't
have a gym membership. So I just been wallowing in my own filth. And I've been cold too. You got to warm up after a cold. It's been a tough scene.
Yeah, that sounds actually really miserable. I would have called Mangone up on the phone. Mangone, I need a guest pass. I need to use your shower at the gym. Mangone would have done it for you, right, Mangone?
Yeah, I would have hooked you up, but DC, I almost got in a fight at the gym today. I mean, it was interesting.
DC was there to back you up.
Listen, so me and my buddy, right, we're sitting there, we're just trying to max out, right? We're moving the weights up, and you got to grab some different ones, right? The 5s, the 10s, you're adding on different ones, and we couldn't find any 10s, right? I went to like 6 machines, and for some reason the 10s just were somewhere else. And
you're maxing out on the machines?
Yeah, we're on the bench. I was just seeing what I could do.
Come on, Mangone. Get off the machines.
No, not on the machines, on the bench, dude. The regular bench.
Okay.
Yeah, not the machines. That's weird. Okay, so my bad on the verbiage, but this guy, right? He's got 345s on the bench, right? He's Jack, dude. Like, doesn't look like he wants to talk to anyone. Looks like he'll just fight you. And I was like, I guess I got to ask this guy if I can get the 10-pound weight. So I was like, yo, you got any 10s? And he was like, literally just looks at me. Then he goes to like 4 different machines to try and find like a 10-pound weight, and he just throws it at us, right? He literally threw the 10-pound weight on the ground at us.
Like a frisbee. Right. I love how you're saying like a frisbee.
He just tossed it, right? He didn't say a word to us, and I was like, all right. So I just, grabbed the 10-pound, put it on, whatever. But that dude was not having it at the gym today, and I definitely was not trying to fight him. So just had to figure, just keep working out and not say a word to him ever again.
You opened the story by saying you almost got in a fight. Doesn't really sound like that was.
He was never contemplating doing anything.
That guy maybe. Yeah, it's true. I was not going to fight him. I was definitely good to not punch him. But if it was someone else, maybe they would have. I'm not.
Who would have won if the two of you went after him versus this Jack guy?
Sounds like you would have punted Mangone first and then went
to that dude's big, dude. Like he has no neck. He is one of those official no neck guys. So I don't think I want to mess with that.
If he's got 345 on there, I can picture what he might look like. Not probably the size of you and your buddy. So
was it Eric Crane?
No, it wasn't Eric Crane.
Oh my gosh, too good. Appreciate it, Vinny. Appreciate all of you in chat. Hey, TB12 said go get a bath in the snow, DC. I mean, that's what I would have done, right? Jump in the snow, get a little ice plunge going, cold plunge, wash off. That's some water. Nothing.
Yeah. Pass on that one.
Pass on that one. All right. 4 games again. We got time to mess around today. But we can also dive in. I mean, Mangone, I'll go to you. Paul George news. That's the big news right now. That's questionable. That game's at 10 p.m. Eastern, though. Otherwise, the game's 1 at 7, 1 at 7:30, 1 at 8, and then the 2-hour window. So assuming we don't get Paul George news, talk a little game theory. You're going to wait on it. Initial thoughts on the slate.
Yeah, I guess that is one thing I haven't looked at yet is how's this news going to fall with Paul George? Obviously, it's 2 hours later. You probably won't get that news on time. Another thing to note, and I believe I saw this. I want to just check the Clippers' schedule. They play tomorrow, I believe, and they basically said Kawhi Leonard is playing one of the back-to-backs, right? Yes. So they play Friday against the Timberwolves, and they also play on Sunday. So it's the start of 3 and 4 which I think is a good point. Kawhi's playing this one. He will not play tomorrow, which I think builds up the incentive to maybe sit Paul George here in this spot. It is on TNT though, so I'm curious to see how that all shakes out, but I kind of think Paul George is going to sit. Now, am I going to prioritize my lineups for Kawhi Leonard because of that and wait? I don't know if that's exactly how I'm going to handle it. Because if you do go that way, you need to have some kind of swaps. You can't just yes, you could keep Kawhi in there and I think you're fine. But I like to at least have the backup plan. Like if this doesn't go my way, what would I rather go to? Because let's say you have Kawhi Leonard and Zubac in your lineup. Well, if Paul George is in there, it's going to hurt Zubac somewhat a little bit more. And then maybe you won't want him. And maybe it's not him, but it's another piece on the Clippers. So it's just something to think about. Whenever I'm considering, hey, I'm going to backload for news that I don't know if I'm going to get, what is my 2v2 plan just to make sure I can make that swap just in case? And then I'm comfortable with it. So I like to look at those beforehand, not just put in the team and be like, I'll figure it out later. Because sometimes you figure it out later and you're stuck playing like Luke Kennard, and that doesn't feel great.
Yeah, good. If you have to plan, especially if you do think he's going to sit, and you do want to take a risk on that. Because man, if Paul George does play in this game, I don't have too much interest in it personally. I think the first games are much better. DC, do you have any lean on that? And you definitely have to have a plan if you do, because you could really be screwed.
Yeah, the big thing I was going to say, just make sure you have a plan for it. You know, if you put Paul George in the forward spot in that last game, you know, worst case scenario would be or Kawhi Leonard, rather, wanted to swap like Aaron Gordon, 6,900 sitting there. But I do think I'm with Mangone. I think there's a pretty good chance Paul George does sit this game out. I mean, he said he's dealing with some hamstring soreness. I mean, the Clippers seem like they're being really, really cautious with their guys all season long. He missed multiple games with that same injury previously this year. And so, anytime that there's like actually a real injury, right? Sometimes players, they list them questionable and it's like, like an elbow contusion or something that they're probably going to play through. This actually seems like something, somewhat real. So I do think he is probably more likely to sit than not. And if he does sit, I do think Kawhi Leonard's a pretty good play. Most people, not a must play by any means, but he has been playing better, playing more minutes. We know he's going to sit tomorrow. And so maybe some more minutes here, knowing, if Paul George is out and knowing that he's going to get the day off tomorrow. So Kawhi Leonard, I think becomes an interesting play. But again, like we said, just make sure you have a plan. Ideally you'd have a couple guys in there and have like a 2v2 swap that uses up most of your salary. But if not, you could always end up going down to some other players as well.
Yeah, Jeremy said line's moving a bit in his favor of him sitting. And because the game's 2 hours after, and we already have like good Memphis spots, some other Luke on the slate, I really don't think these Clippers are going to be played. I think you're going to be low owned. Yeah. Even if that news hits, I don't think most people are going to be able to adjust. So interesting tournament spot there if the news does break your way. Mangone, the news is already getting around. I saw you respond in YouTube chat. News is already getting around. Buddies are texting buddies that Mangone almost got in a fight. So I guess people care more about that than DC sitting over there in his own sweat. But
no, if I'm fighting anyone, I'm going to fight DC one day. Who knows? Maybe not this year, but maybe next RPS party.
That's the second time I heard that. Is there a little beef going on that I don't know?
No, I wouldn't mind. I just know when getting into boxing shape is like the best thing you can do. Like literally, like you're just shredded. So I don't know. The idea of like getting ready to box DC one day sounds good, but not. I'm getting ready for the slab. The boxing.
Anytime, any place, man. Go.
DC's not going to be training. I know that. That's the face there. Yeah, I'll see that. You and Snyder on the slab. Do you have any other matches booked?
Me and Rubio will probably play again for sure. And then, whoever else wants to smoke, I'm in. I'll be playing. It should be fun.
Snyder and Rubio, real gauntlet there. You got to run on the slab. Man.
Hey, DC, that's okay. I get Snyder and Rubio, and then we'll keep going down the line. We'll have to see if I can make it up the title by the end of the weekend. But I don't know if I can. Big T. I never played against someone who was like 6'5", 300 pounds, or until like October when I was there. And it was not fun. It was very difficult.
Would you get past DC in the line?
DC, I think I could get past him.
No.
Okay, is that another game? Is that
again? Let me play my other games, and as we're out there, DC, we'll see what happens.
I shut out Rubio. You had a close match with him. Come on now.
We'll have to see again.
I hope we see a little wagers on the slab. It'll always be a good time. We'll be there in March. A lot of basketball.
DC, all I know is I'm confident. Okay, I'll play almost anyone out there, so I'm good to go.
Confidence is definitely key. Mangone's in the gym grinding for
Mangone
sure.
wants to fight his coach. Like I don't know.
I don't want to. I don't want you against me. I'm just saying, if people want to call me out, I'm gonna step up to the plate.
I was just trying to think of a pro athlete that just fought his coach before. There's got to be a couple of them, but I couldn't come up with any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't think of any right. Antonio Brown, I don't know, maybe. At one point, he fits a lot of boats. Yeah.
Speaking of Antonio Brown, did you see what Le'Veon Bell said the other day? Someone was going at him about how he like dropped off when he went to the Jets, and he was like, Adam Gase called just like a bunch of like halfback dives. Like it was amazing. Yeah, he basically just chose all the violence on Adam Gase.
Adam Gase, that's a name I haven't heard in a little bit. Spreewell's another name I haven't heard in a little bit. That's
the best one. Yeah, he choked his coach, right?
Yes, you're sure. Yeah. He did do that.
PJ Carlesmo?
Oh, Carlisle, I think.
Yeah, him and Carlisle.
No, not Carlisle. No, you're right.
Like Carlesmo or something. I've heard of the name. Yeah. I don't remember that incident, but yeah, the Spreewell is definitely the good one. Gase the worst. Yeah, we're having fun on this show. Only 4 games. All we ask for you, like button, big red subscribe button though. We got 4 games. We'll dive into it. Start with the first game of the night. We got Memphis Grizzlies, Orlando Magic, 230 total. Memphis is favored by 6.5. And there's big news on the Memphis side. Desmond Bane is not playing. Brandon Clark is still out. Going over to the Orlando side, Mo Wagner is still serving the suspension. Bol out, health and safety protocols. And Jalen Suggs is questionable. Paul George questionable. Jalen Suggs questionable. The 2 biggest news on this slate. We will get the Suggs news. DC, I'll start with you in this one. Memphis, I'll just say how many Memphis Grizzlies are too many. People are going to talk about it. Steven Adams keeps crushing. Ja, Conchar will probably start for Desmond Bane. Any interest on the Magic side? Break down this one.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the Grizzlies that are still playing in the rotation are in play for this one, right? Ja, I think you could make a case for him as the best spend up on the slate, even on a slate with Luka and Joker. Matchups obviously good against Orlando, and missing Desmond Bane, who does do a lot for them, does give a pretty significant boost to Ja Morant. Also brings the bricklayer Dylan Brooks into play, which I'm never happy about. Never like playing that guy, but you got to at least consider him 5,600 on DK. Probably going to play in the mid 30s in minutes, get up 15 plus shots. So the floor is pretty nice, and ceiling I think is there too. So I do like Brooks. Conchar looks like good value. Jaren Jackson, I think you could go there if you wanted to. And then, Steven Adams, I think, is a good play. I ended up playing him last night. He did really well. I was looking at maybe fading him and playing Xavier Tillman, his backup at this point with Brandon Clark on the bench. And if you ended up playing both guys, you did pretty well. I think Adams, had 36 or so. Tillman played 21 minutes. He was out there for every single minute that Adams wasn't. Also closed the game in the blowout, put up 26.5 fantasy points at 3,100 himself. He's got the same price tag. So if you are fading a guy like Steven Adams, Tillman, obvious pivot and leverage off the chalk. I mean, Adams, you do see times when they kind of reduce his minutes out of nowhere, and he could get in foul trouble or blowout like last night against Orlando. I think is possible. Memphis, clearly the better team here. So I do like that pivot if you're trying to get a little bit different going from Adams to Tillman. But, yeah, all the Memphis guys I think are in play. Tyus Jones, didn't mention him, 4,300. He's a solid play as well. So I think you definitely want – I would say at least 2 and maybe up to 4 Memphis guys on this slate seems right to me. Orlando's interesting. They still got, a couple guys – serving suspension. They've got a bunch of guys injured as well, particularly in the front court. Problem with Orlando, though, like Wendell Carter looks solid at 6,400, but he's like the one guy here kind of with like a true backup in Mo Bamba. And in their last game, I don't think they played a minute on the court together. They subbed in and out for each other every single time. And I don't think they want to, completely phase Bamba out. So you're probably looking at 30 minutes for Carter, 18 for Bamba. So I don't love those minutes for Carter, and the matchup kind of sucks too against Memphis. So I'm definitely lower on Orlando than I am Memphis, but yeah, you got to load up on Memphis here. It's just a matter of how many. How
many would be too many? People are going to ask the question. They always do.
I would cut it off at 4 though. I don't think I would play 5 Grizzlies.
I like it. Mangone, going to you. You can answer that question. Memphis, a lot of people have interest. Tyus, a great play. That Tillman nugget was really interesting, DC. And game theory, like if it was yesterday's 12-game slate, you said you considered them. And man, if you did, you got them 0.1%. But they always makes more sense on a 4-game slate.
Yeah.
Adam's going to be very chalky. What happens if he busts? Tillman always got all the minutes, DC said. So that's interesting there at 1% ownership or something. Mangone, break down this game for us.
Yeah, when it comes to like the how many or too many, like I always try to look for how can I make it different if I go overweight on it, right? Like for instance, the other day, like the route to win was like going 5 or 6 Thunder. I actually cashed with only 3 Thunder. The way that I built it to make it different was I just said, let me only play the cheap ones. That's what I kind of said in my single entry 3 max stuff. I said, I don't need Josh Giddey. I don't need Lou Dort. Yes, they did great. I mean, and they were good, but I ended up playing Isaiah Joe, played Trey Mann, and then played one of the other cheap ones, Aaron Wiggins. So it was like those 3. So like those are kind of routes that I build with sometimes and kind of get a little bit different. If you look at the teams today, a lot of the teams are going 3 to 4 Grizzlies, and some are even going 5, but 3 to 4 seems like that magic number. Who are the ones that are like the ones that are going to be popping up the most? I would say Steven Adams is probably number 1, and then Dylan Brooks is number 2. So one small rule that I think you could set right away if you wanted to just be different, if you're running 20 max or 150, and you just want to set some minimal kind of rules. Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks, separate teams. You would instantly get unique combinations of the Grizzlies. Not saying you need to do that, not saying that's what has to happen, but if you're looking to just make uniqueness in a quick way, that is one way that I think you could definitely do it if you're in a little bit of a time crunch. But I think Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks, they're rating out as the 2 best options. After that, it's then John Conchar, I think, is the 3rd best that's rating out, mainly because the forward position is not great today. And because the forward position is not great and they got the guard and forward eligibility, what happens is John Conchar gets put in there because he's 3.3K. And why else is he getting put in there? Because we need value to get who? To get Luka, right? He's the most popular stud on the entire slate. So those are the top 3. And then I'd say the 4th one that pops up is probably Jaren Jackson Jr. It's either him or Tyus Jones. So one way to be different with the way you play your Grizzlies is, like I said, Xing out one of those guys at the top or finding a unique way to do it. Maybe it's doing what DC kind of touched on quick. Maybe it's not playing Adams and playing like a Xavier Tillman. Like, for instance, people played Jonas Valanciunas yesterday. He played great, but also sometimes the other people went to the route of JTHayes or Willy Hernan-Gomez, who also played pretty good. So there's definitely routes where it can work. And if there is somehow a blowout in the Magic game, which is certainly possible, second night of a back-to-back for both teams, though, you could make the case to kind of get a little bit different with some of these other options. So for me, though, I think if I had to prioritize one or the other, I would prioritize Adams over Dylan Brooks. I will admit I do have a bias towards Dylan Brooks a bit. I try not to play him as much as possible, mainly because his floor and ceiling combination. If you look at his fantasy point per minute, he's got really good production, but if you go, like, let's say you look at data of like the last 4 weeks on like Dylan Brooks, the fantasy point per minute will look great, but that's also because some of his games are 50s and then other ones are 18, right? So it's just a very wide range of outcomes for Dylan Brooks. So that's one of my concerns there. Also, sometimes I like riding the wave of like a player that's just playing a lot better. And Steven Adams feels like one of those guys over the years, just because I've been doing this for so long. It feels like Steven Adams is the one that you want to just kind of ride the wave when he's doing well, especially when you don't have someone like Brandon Clark there to steal all that usage. So I think overall, Adams is my favorite, followed by Dylan Brooks. Then I would go with John Conchar for the value that he offers. And then, I don't know, I think Tyus is really intriguing because if the game does blow out, they will obviously like close it out with him. Like sometimes these teams, when they close the game, they want to at least not just put all clowns out there, right? They're not just going to put every single bench player. We saw it the other night, title the Bucks. What happened to them last night? They just let the Raptors hang in that game or whatever. So yeah, I do think Tyus will be the guy that closes it out and kind of stays in there no matter what for the most part. But yeah, I think trying to figure out how to play it this game is going to be the key on this slate. And for me, it's probably trying to get more under on Dylan Brooks. Or if I do play Adams and Dylan Brooks, I'm going to try and make it different from there. Like maybe it's adding John Morant into the mix, right? There's definitely ways that you can go about it, but you are going to want to play Grizzlies. The magic number for me is between 2 and 4. I'll likely be on the number of 3, but kind of have to see how the news shakes out.
Yeah, great breakdown there. And I like how we got to talk game theory on small slates like this. 2 of the chalkiest options, Adams, Dylan Brooks. you don't have a lot of time, you set max one of those guys, you're going to get different a lot easier in a simple rule. So I thought that was very sharp, man.
So sometimes, Title, I literally run that and just to see what, like, I'll run it like maybe like an hour before to see what on earth it does, right? And maybe it gives me a team that like I didn't expect is actually pretty good. Like it's something to look at. So I make sure to do that. I didn't touch on the Magic, but there's not much to touch on. I'll at least say there because they're all getting healthier. I do think Banchero is an interesting contrarian spend up, mainly because I talked about it before. Everyone is playing John Conchar and Dylan Brooks at the forward position. So is anyone really going above Dylan Brooks at their forward spots? Is anyone going above Steven Adams at their centers? Not exactly. So I do think a Banchero could be an interesting spend that you could go to. And I don't hate the idea of like taking some stabs on like a Cole Anthony off the bench who can obviously get going if he starts shooting hot, but you want to like limit the amount of Magic you're playing, right? Like maybe setting a rule of like max of one isn't the worst idea on this slate with all these guys getting back.
Yeah, to get to a Cole Anthony or a Fultz, I would need Jalen Suggs to be ruled out. He's questionable. If he's ruled in, the Magic side gets a lot easier to fade. Probably Wendell Carter would be my favorite then. They are getting Franz Wagner back from yesterday. He didn't play. Now he is. Could get Jalen Suggs back. So, yeah, they're definitely getting healthier. But, yeah, Tyus, I really do like Tyus at 4-3. I mean, we just saw when he played with Ja, he put up 48 or 42 DK points 2 games ago. Look at who he's going to play with on the second unit. Zaire Williams, Santi Aldama. David Roddy, like he's going to command the second unit. He could easily close. I mean, he's a very good basketball player. He shares the court with Ja Morant too. So I think there's a lot of upside for Tyus at 4-3.
Title, I love the idea of playing Tyus with like Conchar and then like one of Adams or Brooks and then leave it like that, right? Yeah, you don't have to go up to like Jaren Jackson, who, Jaren Jackson is a good fantasy producer, but one of the problems is like, what does he have to do to actually kill you, right? And you could make the case for Steven Adams too. What does he have to do to kill you? So like, sometimes I like to really just play these, like a new way to like, when it's one of those slates where it's like 3 or 4 like Spurs are being pushed on teams or 3 or 4 Magic. Sometimes I like the idea of just avoiding the expensive ones and just playing the cheap ones instead, like I did with the Thunder the other day. It's just a strategy that I think is really, really interesting that people just overlook, and it allows you to get a ton of different studs in your lineup and just spend ups that can be huge difference makers.
One nice thing about the Memphis team is for the most part, these guys kind of have the starters all have a backup that is kind of their clear guy that they, sub in for. Like, yes, Tyus Jones will play some minutes with Ja Morant, but we were trying to get different on a 4-game slate. Like if something happens to Ja Morant, whether that's blowout, injury, foul trouble, Tyus Jones is going to come in and just absolutely smash value. Same thing with Adams and Tillman. I expect those two to combine, honestly, for exactly 48 minutes tonight. I think is the most likely combo. And sometimes that can go in your direction. Dylan Brooks, if you're fading him, I think John Conchar, would be very likely to have a big game if something would happen to Dylan Brooks. And then even Jaren Jackson and Santi Aldama, if you look at the last game, those two subbed in and out for each other almost every time one came out and the other came in. So there are kind of clear pivots, and you take maybe 1 or 2 of the starters out, go to the backups, and hope that it's the starters you have in your lineup that do well. Maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. gets in foul trouble like he's prone to do. Aldama's 3,400. So I do think there are ways you can kind of pivot off some of the Memphis to the backups and, try to get the right combination in there.
Yeah, great breakdown there. We did spend a lot of time on that first game, but Memphis is the story on this slate right now. There's no doubt about that. You can go there for the stud with Ja. There's value. Adams been crushing. We talked about the backups. Yeah, it's a fun game and one you can't ignore to start off the slate. That game's at 7 p.m. Eastern, though. The next game, 30 minutes later at 7:30. Before we do get into that, Allie asked, about 500 watching, 145 likes. Let's get 275 today. I think that's a very fair number. 275 likes will get you the plays of the day. Golf started off today. It's always fun, man. And it was fun looking at golf teams. I mean, this guy birdie, this guy bogey, get in the golf chat, see people tilting. It's back in full force. Always fun to check on. Cut Sweat's fun. Sundays are fun. The team absolutely crushes it. Yesterday, we did a playback show. Big T and JSU were watching sports. A bunch of people tuned in. A bunch of us hopped on. I hopped on at night. A lot of other coordinators throughout the day. Being there got on there for a little bit too. It was just a very fun time. another thing we're adding to Run Pure Sports. We keep growing. You do have to be a member to get all this cool stuff, though. No promo code right now. We had one for Christmas, but still a bunch going on. MMA coming up soon. NFL playoffs. Hoop and I dropping an Underdog basketball show. We just recorded it. Should be out pretty soon. A lot of content over here. How to Run Pure Sports. Get in the Discord. That's enough of that, though. Moving on to the second game of 4. Boston Celtics, Dallas Mavericks, 231 total. Boston is favored by 2.5. No injury news on Boston. As far as Dallas, Maxi Kleba out. Dorian Finney-Smith out. DC, I'll go to you. Luka, man, going hinted at it. Top play. People are going to spend up for him. The chalky option with a lot of Memphis Grizzlies. If you play Luka, how do you get different with them? Are you going to get there today? And any interest on the other side?
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up fading Luka like I normally do at his price point. Hasn't worked out super well recently, but I do think there's a case for it here. Boston's coming off that awful loss to Orlando, or to OKC rather, where they gave up 150 points. Best or second best defense in the league had no answer somehow for that OKC Thunder team. This is the next game for them, and they face a player in Luka. I know Luka's amazing, but you do kind of know what Dallas is going to do, right? And for a team that should be locked in on defense, has players, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, I think they can give Luka a little bit, at least, of trouble here. Obviously, he's still going to get his at times, but at that price point, I mean, you need 60 out of him, I think, even on a 4-game slate, especially with Ja in a good spot, with Joker in a pretty good spot. I think Boston can maybe slow him down here. It would be the spot to do it, kind of the bounce back spot after getting humiliated by the Thunder. And I think they're going to do it. So, at least I think they've got a better chance to do it than will be reflected in the ownership, especially when you consider the price tag and what Luka has to do to kind of pay off that 12.6K price tag. So I think Boston bounces back here in a big way. I think they win this game, and I'll be looking at Smart, Jaylen Brown, some of those guys to bounce back after a bad performance. Gonna fade Luka myself. I get why people are playing him. I'll spend up on Ja or Joker instead. It's going to be kind of my approach here. Not going to go to a ton else on Dallas. I mean, if Luka sucks, the team's probably not going to play super well, right? I don't think there's going to be a ton of guys that get there if Luka can't get the job done himself. So that's my approach to this one. 4-game slate, you got to take some stand somewhere. I'll be on the fade Luka trade myself.
I think you're talking me in. I think I might fire a little on Boston -3. It definitely feels like a Boston spot. I mean, I think they're the better outside of Luka. This team's definitely a way better team all around.
And they have the tools to kind of slow him down at least a little bit, right?
They have the length, they have the athleticism, they have multiple bodies they can throw at him too. I mean, man, yeah, it's coming off that OKC game too. I think you talked me into it, man. Go and break down this one. Talk about Luka. You're gonna get to him. Talk about Boston. Outside of Luka, this game's really, not going to be owned. So talk about it.
Yeah, this is a great talking point to talk about Luka. Like, he is going to be the stud that everyone's spending on, and he's a stud I want to spend on. I'm trying my best to, but I understand the reasons not to spend on him, right? Let's look back at yesterday's slate. Everyone was playing James Harden, right? James Harden's the best stud, 60% owned. What was Giannis? Giannis was like 17%. And a lot of teams were jamming both until we got the Paul Reed news. Paul Reed, not the starter. We lost that value to be able to make that work. Giannis's ownership went down. Giannis teams were better than Harden teams overall on the day. Could you win with Harden? Yes, but Giannis combinations were the better ones overall. So could it be a Jokic night instead with Aaron Gordon, dealing with, I think he's out now. So Jokic is a guy that you could be contrarian with spending on. Maybe Kawhi's a contrarian spend up option. Luka's great and all. He's definitely someone I'm considering playing. And if I play Luka, and I play the Grizzlies, right, I'm going to think about how am I playing my other roster spots and how am I playing those Grizzlies with Luka. I do think that the projections are still not accurately projecting Luka. I think he should be a higher fantasy point per minute than some of the other sites are saying. So I'm considering still taking advantage of that. But I do understand the ownership is high and there are some interesting other builds where everyone, like I said, if you look at everyone's teams, look at the core plays today. They're going to be Grizzlies in there and Luka, right? So what's the best way to get different? It's flipping the build. It's just like in NFL. Everyone's paying up at running back, pay up at wide receiver, right? Everyone's paying for Luka. Maybe you pay for Jokic instead. So that's definitely going to be a big thing that I'm thinking about for sure when building my teams. I'm either going to try and find a pretty contrarian Luka lineup, or I'm going to try and flip the build and go the other way. My lean right now is to play a Luka team because I'm only playing one today as my main team, not really doing too much else. It's just a 4-game slate, and I hate dealing with the Memphis Grizzlies, but Luka's currently the guy that I want to get on. I know, DC, you say I always get Luka right, and I just think it's a good spot for Luka, and I think the Celtics are struggling, right? I went on the bet show the other day, and I was like, yeah, Celtics will still handily beat them, and I don't know. The Celtics seem like they are having problems. They just seem like they are not clicking as well as they were. And I think that Luka is just absolutely on fire, and I like to ride these waves at times. So I just got to think about the ownership, and I got to think about the difference between him and Jokic. So I think that's really the debate you have to have today.
Well, so I was literally about to hit the sports or bet this one. Do I get big free man going Bucks? You got Dallas plus 2.5. I got Boston. That's what I see.
I can't bet against my Celtics after, touting them up the other day. I don't feel that confident, title.
All right. Had to ask.
I wish I could.
Well, you can. All you got
the other day was
it only takes one word. You just say agree. Convert. You can.
It's the title. After what I saw the other day, I can't even. It was unexplainable what happened. Like the fact that OKC guys did what they did. It's just I can't sit there and pull the trigger. But I wish I could.
All right. Sportsbook's gonna have to donate to me instead of Mango. Let's get to the next game on this. Go ahead, DC.
I was gonna ask you, did you watch the first half? I watched the first half. I was on Giannis yesterday. The first half of that Bucks.
The grossest thing ever. No one could buy a bucket for it was
7-1 after like 7 minutes into the game. Of course, I watched it like midway through the third quarter, and I was just like, all right, this game, I've seen enough. And then, of course, I missed like the greatest comeback of all time.
Yeah. Oh, they still lost.
Did you see the Cavs and Suns? That game was 15-12 at like the end of the first quarter. So there were a lot of ugly ones yesterday.
Giannis had 12 turnovers. Like he was playing in slow motion. It was,
and he still put up a monster. But it was 24-16. I think was 6 minutes left in the second quarter or something. It was so gross to watch. And it ended up being a very fun game. Jalen Suggs is available to play, so we did get that news. Really only waiting on Jalen Suggs will be on a minutes limit. I still think it makes that Orlando side tough to get. Gary Harris is going to start again, though. Same lineup they rolled out yesterday. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't think you really need to get to that Orlando spot. The Paul George news, the biggest news on the slate that is questionable, though. Let's keep it moving, though. Again,
real quick, we should call out, like, it is the Tatum versus Luka game, right? Like the MVPs, like two guys battling for it. Like, if you wanted to get different with the Tatum spend, I wouldn't hate it. For me right now, I'm not seeing it completely, but if other values opened up where it could make sense, like let's say we gain some guard values that are really strong, because I think that's one of the reasons you can't really spend up as much at the forward position. If you gain some guard value, I think that could bring into play a like 5% owned Tatum as a really interesting contrarian option. But I think that's one reason you're not seeing that spend up forward construction, because there are not really a ton of spend up guards.
Celtics are gonna throttle them here, man. Coming off their worst game in years, and now on TNT national television the very next day.
Yeah. You should like Tatum then, DC. You're crazy not to like him.
I'll be playing some Celtics.
Right, good stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on this. And the ownership's going to be so like. Sometimes when you look at the studs, yes, Luka's amazing. He's going to be what, 8, 9 times, 10 times the ownership at almost $2,000 more or something, and not $2,000, $1,700 more. I mean, yeah, 4-game slate. Can Jason Tatum outscore Luka or get close in one game? His obvious answer is yes. I'm with you, DC. I like them. I'm going to be betting Boston. I don't know why it's not going through right now, but let's keep it moving. 275 is what we need for the likes. 8 p.m. Eastern, Utah Jazz, Houston Rockets, 231.5 total. Utah is favored by 6.5. Colin Sexton still out for Utah. Nothing changed there. Jayshawn Tate is back for Houston, so they are completely healthy. Mangone, I'll throw it to you in this one. Again, not a game I see a bunch of definitely more than that Boston-Dallas game. Memphis side will have all the ownership. Then I think people probably go to this game and the second and fourth game. The Clippers game and the Boston game doesn't get as much. Break down Houston, break down the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I see people going to the Jazz, and I see them going to like the Rockets too. And I'm a little confused by some of the Rockets love. Maybe it's because it's a 4-game slate, right? And you need some value, so you have to get something onto your teams. But Sengun's the first guy we'll start with. It is a really good matchup. Utah has struggled against centers throughout the year. The question is Sengun, will he get the minutes, right? That's always the big debate. That's the big concern. I think Sengun is a really, really strong option in tournaments that I think you should consider. I do want to see what the ownership is. I think that's always going to be important. I know he's popping a little bit right now, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to gain as much. I think everyone's going to go to Adams, and it's still going to just bring down Sengun enough, at least where I think he's a good tournament play. I'm not dying to play Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. If I did play one, it's probably Jalen Green. Typically, shooting guard is not an easy spot to roster. So, yes, you can put like Brooks in there and Conchar and some of those guys, but shooting guard typically is just not the best spot to roster guys. That's why you saw James Harden be 60% owned, because they felt like they had a free square at the shooting guard position. So, yeah, overall, I think Jalen Green, he's okay, but I'm not trying to get there that much. And I don't think I love a lot of these Rockets. Like, maybe you could talk me into, like, I know KJ Martin was popping up a little bit earlier in the day, but Tate is now back. I know he's on a minutes limit. This just feels like a tough spot to really get to these guys. Even Eric Gordon, like, do I really want to play him as a punt option?
No.
Or I'd rather just try and find someone else? I think the Rockets are just really tough to roster. If we want to go over to the Utah side, there are some really interesting value plays that I have some interest in. I'll start with Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley, these are like the matchups that you want to play him in. I know our guy Bobby Hare, he did a, he does a really, really early core over on Twitter for people. And he basically talked about Malik Beasley in that Kings matchup. Fast-paced game. What are the Rockets? Fast-paced game that doesn't play a lot of defense. This screams a really good Malik Beasley spot. It's kind of one of those, like, if you were going to play Malik Beasley, who are like some of like the top 5 teams in the league that you'd want to play him against? This is one of those perfect matchups. So I think he's a pretty good spot. So Malik Beasley going to be in play for me as an interesting value play. You can make the case Jordan Clarkson could easily pop off in almost any game. He's only 6.8K. We've seen him at 7.5. Feels like a little bit of a price, downgrade. I have some interest in him. I think you could make a case for Lauri Markkanen, but do I want to pay 8.6 for him on this slate? Probably not. I doubt I'll really get there. Mike Conley got a price increase over to 6.2K. Actually, sorry, that's the FanDuel price tag. So I'm looking at it wrong. What is he at? He's at what is it?
Mike, you say Mike Conley?
Yeah.
5'7". He's cheap. He's gonna get some ownership.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When I read the 6, I was like, that's not his price. I know it's cheap. Okay, so 5'7". That's not bad for the Houston matchup. And I think sometimes on these 4-game slates, it's not bad to just take a guy that like won't kill you. And it feels like Mike Conley won't kill you. So I could go back to him. I know I played him the other day, so he was good to me. I could go back to him. I don't hate it. And then if you look at, like, let's see what Lauri's price was. Because, again, I was looking at the wrong ones when I was going through it. I said 8.6 before.
He's 9K.
Well, 9K is even worse. I didn't even realize it was 9K. Yeah, I don't think I can get to Lauri today. I think I'm good on Lauri Markkanen. And I said Clarkson's price, so it's not 6.8, it's 7.3. So I was like, I had the FanDuel tab up, so my apologies there. But Malik Beasley's probably my favorite value in this game, followed by Mike Conley, and then I'd say Kelly Olynyk, probably number 3, just because Houston's not good against centers, and he can easily pop off for a big game and has that ceiling. I'm not dying to get to some of these other guys off the bench, like Walker Kessler, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I just don't think I need to take a chance on those guys. Maybe DC has another opinion on that because they are like kind of thin on that bench where you could see one of these guys go out there and have a game, but I just don't think it's for me. I think I'm really just looking at those guys in that 5K range on Utah.
Yeah, good breakdown. As Derek said, hit the like. DC going to you in this one. Someone mentioned it in chat, Jabari Smith Jr. Any thoughts on Jabari Smith? You said no, Eric Gordon. Break down this one.
Yeah, Eric Gordon, there's just no upside there. So even at 3,500, I mean,
what about 10 years ago?
Tyler, you must have missed in the chat. K Fallick, we were talking about someone touted up Gary Harris today, and I said, "Are you playing 2018 DFS?" And K Fallick followed up with, "Here's the 2018 DFS core for today." So guys that would have crushed then, and Blake Griffin was on it, Kemba Walker, John Wall. It was a fun time in the Discord chat.
I missed it. That's good.
K Fallick doesn't like it when you question his take, so he'll fire back at you. The Rockets were looking like a good value team early in the day, right? I think Eric Gordon was listed doubtful. Maybe that was from the previous game or something, or maybe I misread that. I'm not sure. And then Jason Tate, he hasn't played in over 2 months, but just being back in the rotation, right, really does. It might not hurt a guy like KJ Martin. I still think he's in play at 3,500. I'd definitely rather play him than Eric Gordon. But now the Rockets have more guys. They're probably going to play, I would guess, at least 10 guys in this matchup. This game is like, you can make a case for or against almost every player in this game, right? Which means just every player is like appropriately priced. They all look like, 4.8 to 5.2x kind of their salary based projection there. So if I'm probably going cheap. I still think KJ Martin, he was kind of my favorite earlier on. I think he's got a little bit of upside in a pace up matchup, and he's super cheap at 3,500. I think Sengun probably second for me at 5,800. And then, I don't mind Jabari Smith Jr. Give me the young bucks if we're trying to get value in this game. The guys that we just know what Gordon's ceiling is at this game when he's not going to get that many minutes or usage. So I'm not going to play old dusty Eric Gordon. But Sengun, Jabari Smith, KJ Martin, I don't mind those guys. Sure, if you want to get contrarian, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, I think are fine. Not going to be on my main teams. And I mean, kind of the same thing for Utah. I don't think any of these guys are terrible plays by any means, but, it's hard to really make a case for a 9K Lauri Markkanen other than just saying no one's going to play him, which is pretty,
accurate.
Yeah, but it's just also a strong way to start making a case for a guy, right? I mean, obviously that's what we want, especially on a 4-game slate. So, I like the Beasley call from Mangone. I don't think Markkanen's a terrible play at 9K when no one's going to play him, but I really don't see anything that sticks out salary-wise in this one.
Well, did you like Jabari Smith Jr., DC? You said you liked him?
Yeah, I like him a little bit. So
one thing to call out, I actually dug into him a little bit today. So, his fantasy point per minute, if you look I looked at some of the numbers and, on this, I think most sites projecting him around 0.85. And, if you look at, the last, 4 weeks, I think it's at 0.91. And the last 2 weeks is 0.99. Sometimes, these, young players start to find it and then pop off. And then, all of a sudden, Jabari Smith in 2 weeks will be 6K, right? I'm not saying that's what's for sure happening here. Sometimes I like to see the fantasy point per minute gap be a little bit larger, but it's worth mentioning with these young guys. Sometimes they kind of find it where the coach gives them minutes. And on the flip side, sometimes they just hit a wall, right? And then they absolutely start playing terrible. So I don't think it's a bad call, Smith Jr., from an upside perspective, especially because a guy like Sengun just loses minutes all the time, right? And then Smith Jr. could absolutely eat if Sengun gets 22 minutes. You're on mute, Title.
Thank you, Mangone. I appreciate that. I would have kept going for a long time. DC is still trying to get everything figured out back here. A lot going on. DC, question, Olynyk or Jared Vanderbilt? Or are you not going to touch either of them?
I'm probably not going to play either one, or not much of them anyway.
I'll go
Jared Vanderbilt
then.
is so hard to play because he can sink your lineup, right? He does have the ceiling to get 50, it's there, but man, he can just bury you. So he's a really tough roster. I'm
thinking probably 10%, maybe single digits. Your explanation of him on a 4-game slate, he's right in the range of all the Memphis guys. I mean, is that the GPP? If you're going Luka, if you're going Adams, if you're going Brooks, I think throwing someone like a Vanderbilt there in single digits would make sense there. If you're already different in different spots, I don't think you need to play Vanderbilt. But I mean, Mangone said he can bury your lineups or he can hit 50. That is the definition of. I
would rather play Olynyk, but I'll admit I'm biased because there was one day where he buried me. I mean, he got me 7, and I watched him do nothing. So,
that's why
it was painful. I'll admit where the bias is.
Hold an Al Horford on you.
Al Horford did hurt me too, but I still cashed with Big Al and only 3 thunder.
I went with the full Thunder stack in that game, and I brought it back with all the Boston guys, and of course I just get absolutely blown out. So,
you were blowout. That's what I was thinking. Celtics would blow them out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could have the Stones, and Horford found a way to get 3.5. Mangone's out there; he's getting more than 3.5 against those dudes. So that was definitely no. I would take the under. I would. All right, we're moving on. Mangone, that's not you. I'd probably take the under for me too. There's levels to this stuff.
I can see men going jumping a passing lane, getting a steal.
Yeah,
then getting swatted from behind.
Not the bucket. He's not getting the bucket.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3.5 point. Yeah. I don't know. 3.5 DFS points. I'm probably still taking the.
What about some home cooking with an assist where he just hands it off and some guy drives?
The thing is, if they really wanted someone would face guard Mangone and they say he cannot get 3.5 DFS points.
Well, yeah.
But
that would be a really, really poor defensive strategy. So.
Face guarding me would be a bad idea.
Well, that's the thing.
I play very fundamentally sound basketball. I make sure to pass the ball to the guy that's open that I know needs the shot. So I'd find a way to get into some stuff. I'll crash for the boards really hard.
You would take over 3.5 DFS points in an NBA game?
If I played 30 minutes, I think I'd grab at least a rebound or two and enough. I think I could get there. Remind
the people how tall you are.
Yeah, it's true. I'm short. Yeah, you're right. 5'8". Yeah, it'd be tough. I don't know. This is a great question to ask everyone.
It is. It is a great question.
Title, what would you put your number at?
Not 3.5, maybe. I don't know. I mean, these dudes are.
That's true. You're probably right. I probably should take.
I play with Trayvon Hughes at the Y sometimes. Ex-Badger played over. And he's not even trying, and there's levels to this.
No, you're right.
Title can bury the open three.
Well, if I'm open, yeah. I mean, the thing is, they would leave you open, kind. So then, yeah. I mean,
that's the thing. If they left you open, it'd be intriguing, obviously. But
hey, 5'8" isn't short. Sorry, Dennis. I guess that's average in this world. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll call it a little short though.
It doesn't feel that in Colorado. I'll tell you this, DC. People feel really tall in Colorado.
I don't think it feels like that anywhere nowadays. 5'8", I feel like I don't know, felt average a while ago. But hey, we're not getting into that. You're 5'8". We love you just like if you're 6'8". We do not care how tall you are.
5'8" isn't short, but 5'7" is. That's
but 5'7" short. Dennis, you are definitely 5'8". I can guarantee you that. All right, let's keep moving on though. We got one game left on this slate. 275 is the likes that we asked for. About 60 left. Appreciate all you hanging out with us. Last game of the slate, 2 hours after, 10 p.m. Eastern. Los Angeles Clippers, Denver Nuggets, 229 total. Denver is favored by 6. Big news, Paul George is questionable. Nicholas Batum is out. As far as the Denver side, Jeff Green's still out. Nothing has changed there. Mangone, I'll start with you. We hinted at the pregame show, or before when the show just started. Paul George, questionable. You probably won't get this news. If he's in, I mean, just talk about what you're doing with this. Talk about this game. I don't think too much ownership will be on it, but could turn into a very good spot for the Clippers if he is out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting spot. A little late night hammer. Don't have a lot of flexibility to switch to things. So yeah. Also, did I not I swear I read that is Aaron Gordon in today, or am I crazy? Title.
I think he's
crazy.
Is he? I must have saw a crazy notification come across my screen. So I thought he was out for some reason, but maybe I read the wrong. Gordon was out or something, but okay, I just wanted to make sure because I swear I saw that earlier today when I was at the gym, but maybe I read it wrong while I was going to get killed by some guy at the gym. But anyways, Nikola Jokic, obviously a really good spend up option that you can go to. He's going to be contrarian, right? Just naturally, because no one is going to want to spend at center. Everyone is jamming in Steven Adams, right? Everyone's jamming in Luka. So if you go to a Jokic, it's just going to be a contrarian build. And I do think he's a good play. On the flip side, at the center position, if Jokic is in the game, who's covering him? They need to play Zubac, right? Zubac has to play minutes tonight. You can't go out there and play him 22 minutes. That's really not going to work. I mean, so I do think overall you are going to see Zubac play more minutes, and that's going to naturally make him a better play, especially if Paul George is out. So I do think Zubac is someone that I'm going to consider on the Clipper side of the ball. I really, really like Kawhi Leonard. I think he's a really good spend-up option. Curious to see what everyone else does because people are going to be locked out of Kawhi Leonard. If you saw the other day, Paul George, if you remember that slate, I think he ended up coming in at 28%. And I think people were shocked that he was higher owned than you would think. But that's because you had flexibility because you had Jordan Poole, right? You had Klay Thompson. You had all these guys to pivot off of. On this slate, you will not have the flexibility. You will be locked into guys where you will have trouble going up and grabbing Kawhi Leonard. So I do think he's a good guy to kind of maybe bump in your projections early on to make sure you get him if you want to project for this news. So I like Kawhi. Definitely going to be someone that I look to play. I think he's a good play even if Paul George is in. Sure, he's not as good of a play, but I still think he can find his way to getting there. Marcus Morris, we could talk about the little narrative, right? He's going up against Jokic. I can't remember which Morris. I think it was Markieff that fought him, but these dudes are twins. So who knows if Marcus has a little revenge against Jokic? I'm not sure, but dude is 4.7K. He's been playing 28 to 32 minutes recently. He likes to shoot the ball a lot. This is definitely a matchup. You could see Marcus Morris, if he gets hot, put up a 40 fantasy point game. So I think at his salary, he has a really nice ceiling to consider him. The guard position, it's a little crowded, I think, even if Paul George is out, because it's just a guessing game with the Clippers that I don't know if I want to play that guessing game. Do I want to guess if it's Reggie Jackson, John Wall, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell? I mean, even Luke Kennard can get involved and shoot the 3-ball a ton. I just think those guards I'm not going to take my chances on today. Again, I play one lineup. I play single entry 3-max stuff. In MME, if you want to mix and match them, you can, but I am not that interested in doing it. I think Kawhi Leonard, is Marcus Morris, and Zubac are the 3 that I'm targeting on the Clippers. And then on the Nuggets side of the ball, it's pretty simple. It's Jokic as a contrarian spend up to flip the build. If I land in the mid-tier for like a Jamal Murray, I wouldn't hate that. But I don't know. It's really hard to get to these guys with them all kind of in, right? With Michael Porter Jr., he can steal shots. Like, it just feels like it's too crowded in Denver, where I think it's just, for me, Jokic or bust.
Great breakdown there. We need 45 more likes, 275. DC's going to talk. I'm not going to look at the YouTube. I can actually see the chat without YouTube up. It's pretty special now. I haven't been able to see that before. So, gonna see. No, I'm not looking at YouTube. DC's done talking. If we don't get the likes, fortunately, you're not gonna be able to get to plays today. Hopefully, you guys do get it done for us, though. DC, talk about Covington. Brendan's asking about him. Patrick Rice made a point, which we really haven't talked about. I don't really talk about or consider blowouts much, but on a 4-game slate, if Paul George doesn't play, he's scared that they're gonna get killed. Thoughts on that? What are you doing in this game?
Yeah, tough spot for Clippers regardless. Going into Denver, one of the toughest places to play. I mentioned this on a lot of Jokic slates. It's been this way for years with him. He's way better at home fantasy-wise than he is on the road. This year, what is he averaging? 11 points, 11.2 more fantasy points per game at home than he is on the road.
You think it's the altitude?
Yeah, it's the altitude.
Others wear down where he – yeah.
For sure it is, because he gets to go up against, especially against centers, right? Like big dudes who just have trouble keeping pace, especially with his unique style play. And if you look back at Jokic's career, it's almost every year. It's like between 5 and 10 fantasy points per game at home compared to on the road. He's had good success against Clippers and Zubac in the past. And yeah, give me Jokic over Luka here, especially, I mean, way better matchup, I think, for Jokic than it is for Luka. And I'm seeing like half the ownership. Yeah. And a little bit cheaper, right? So yeah, I'm on the Jokic train tonight. I'm not going to play a ton else from Denver. I mean, it's hard because Joker has to do so much to get there at his price point. It's kind of hard for anyone else to have kind of a big game when he puts up his, hoping for obviously 70 or 80. So yeah, I'm on Joker here. Won't go to a ton else on Denver unless Mangone's phantom injury, Aaron Gordon comes through, and then maybe I'll get some value on Denver. And then the Clippers side, I mean, I think the run back seems pretty obvious if you want to do it. Kawhi Leonard, I think, could have a nice game here. Like we said at the beginning of the show, I do kind of anticipate that Paul George might sit, and yeah, it would be a pretty good spot for Kawhi Leonard. Covington, I mean, I just can't do it. You don't even know if the minutes are going to be there for sure. I don't mind the Markieff Morris call, 4,700. I think that's fine, but I'm not going to.
And he means Marcus, not Markieff.
Marcus Morris. Yeah, I can't get those guys straight. Whatever.
Markieff doesn't get minutes really anymore. Marcus does it, so you don't even got to say Markieff's name anymore.
Markieff originally was the better one, like when they first came into the league, but I guess it's Marcus now.
I've always thought they love their mid-range little turnaround. They got that shot down, but one of them gets PT, one doesn't. Now I don't know. Yeah,
they seem about the same to me. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to Jackson, Wall, Jamal Murray, any of those guys, or none of those guys really on my slate unless we get unexpected news. So yeah, Joker, Kawhi, and kind of moving on from there.
Love it. That is all 4 games on this slate. Hopefully you guys get the like button. About to check in like 15 seconds. But if you're not a member, golf now back in full swing. We have a free show on Tuesdays with Snyder, Locks, and AP that break it all down. Then Wednesday premium shows behind the paywall. Hoop, Tambo, Big T always break that down. Big T's player pool, core plays. The Up to Lock show is always a good time. In the Discord, there's no better community. Best ball playoff content is going to be coming out. MMA is going to be back. So much going on over here. NFL playoffs, week 18. A lot of money to be made. So head to Run Pure Sports. No better time to join. Checking the likes, 276. Ooh. Right on the dot. You guys did it. We appreciate it. Let's make a push over 300 before we get on out of here, though. We'll go to the plays of the day, though. I'll go to myself. The SO is back. It is no longer the Swaze. Big T overruled it yesterday. Tambo overruled it too. SO is what it is, and I like that. I'm going to go Jamal Murray in that last game. I think he's going to be very low owned too. I do like the Jokic call for sure at 11-8. I just don't think I'll really get there myself. 7K for Jamal. I like someone on this Denver side. Give me him as the SO play of the day. I think 7K is too cheap for his upside. Let's go to Mangone, the sweet Travis play of the day. Who do you got, Mangone?
Yeah, let's go with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's my guy. I'm going to go with him as my play of the day. I think he's a really good spin-up option. I think you're going to fall into the news that Paul George is out. And if he's not, that's okay. We can still play Paul George, right? Or maybe you have enough salary to make some kind of change and go grab Jokic if you have the utility spot, if you really want to. But I'm down to get with Kawhi. TNT game. Also, we know they always worry about Kawhi and his minutes. Listen, they get longer breaks in the TNT game, longer commercials. So it's good for Kawhi. Kawhi's going to have a good night. He's been absolutely crushing it as of recent. He looks healthy. Give me Kawhi Leonard as my play of the day.
I almost took him from you too. I was going back and forth with those two. He doesn't have a minutes limit anymore. Playing upper 30 minutes. I definitely like that call. Glad I didn't take it from you, man. Going, you would have been in shambles, just like when that dude was tossing frisbees at you with the weights. Let's end this show. The Mom's Basement play of the day, DC. Who do you got for us?
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm feeling extra grimy, not being able to shower after running today. But we're going down to the basement today, all the way down to the basement. $3,100 Xavier Tillman. I almost played him yesterday on a 12-game slate. On a 4-gamer, direct leverage off who might be the most popular play on this slate, Steven Adams. Tillman played every minute that Adams wasn't on the court yesterday. I think that'll be the case again today. He's got several routes to get there. Adams foul trouble, injury, blowout, or just reduced minutes for Adams on the second half of a back-to-back. And Tillman, 3,100, pretty good fantasy point per minute guy. Good matchup, and honestly can't really hurt you too bad at 3,100. I think you'll get at least 15 minutes regardless of how the game goes. So Xavier Tillman, Mom's Basement play of the day.
I love that intro too. Feeling grimy, got to go all the way downstairs, got to stay away from everyone else. 1% own Xavier Tillman from DC. You got to love it. Then we got Kawhi for Mangone, Sweet Travis, Jamal Murray over here. A lot of low owned plays. Should be a fun 4-game slate. Really only waiting on the Paul George news unless something else hits. We'll be in the Discord as always. Again, Up to Lock show. That's also going on today. If you're not a member, head over to Run Pure Sports. Get in the Discord. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us today. Hit that like on the way out. Hit that big red subscribe button. We'll be out tomorrow. But that's going to do it for us. For Mangone, DC, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.